Hello, this is Intermediate Lesson 3. Okay, so on today's agenda, we're going to be going over the minor key signatures and the relative minor, and we're also going to apply that knowledge to minor scales. And for this class, just like last time, make sure to have a paper and pencil ready. Okay, so in last week's lesson, which you can also find on YouTube, we went over some memorization methods of all the major key signatures. So let's complete a small refresher before we go to minor key signatures. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to identify the key from the following major key signatures. So remember, for flats, you can write down your order of flats and follow the rule that we learned last lesson. And then for sharps, same thing. You can go back to the last lesson and find the rule. So I'll give you guys a few minutes. Okay, so here are the answers. The first key is A flat major. So remember, when we're looking at flats in the major key, we look at the second last flat, and then that is the key of the piece. So in this case, the second last flat is A flat, so the piece would be an A flat major. The second one is F sharp major. Remember, for sharps, we look at the very last sharp, and in this case, it's E sharp. So we have kind of like a hard example. And then we raise E sharp up another half step. And the tricky part is you have to remember that E sharp is basically F. They're the same thing. So when you raise F a half step, it gives you F sharp. That's why we're an F sharp major. And the last example, we're back to flats. So we look at the second last flat, which is C flat, and that is the key of our piece. So now we're going to move on to minor key signatures. So the process of finding the minor key from a key signature actually doesn't differ too much from finding a major key, and we only have to add one extra step. So after finding the major key, which a key signature belongs to, you take the letter name of the major key and lower it by 3 half steps. And so this new note is called the relative minor of the major key. So minor keys don't have their own new, completely separate key signatures. They actually share the same key signatures as their major keys, but they're different notes. So for example, G major and G minor don't have the same key signature, but G major and E minor do, because E is 3 half steps down from G. So that'll hopefully become clearer when we practice with some exercises. So if you have a piece of paper, or if you just want to think in your head, we're going to try to find the relative minor of this. So first, we can do this example together. Let's first identify the major key which the key signature belongs to. And so we see, first of all, that there are sharps. So we look at the last sharp, which is D sharp, and then we raise it by a half step following the rule of sharps, and that gives us E. So this is E major. So now that we know that the major key corresponding with the key signature is E major, we're going to lower E by 3 half steps. So we put this piano here to kind of help you visualize this. Okay, so 3 half steps down from E is first D sharp, D, C sharp. So 3 half steps down from E is C sharp, which means the relative minor of E major is C sharp minor. And remember, they're called relative minors because they share the same key signature. So let me write this here. Hopefully you guys can see that in the recording. And I'll just leave the finished screen up for a bit so you guys can review it if needed. Okay, we did that. It's just a check. And the major key is E. The lowering E gives you C sharp. That is a sharp. Okay, let's go on. So now we're going to do it with a different key signature, and I'll give you guys a few minutes to figure this out on your own. So first of all, we see that there are flats in this key signature. So we look at the second last flat, which is E flat, and that is the key of the piece. That is the major key of the piece. So E flat. And then we're going to lower E flat by 3 half steps. So we start E flat to D is 1, D to D flat is 2, and then D flat to C is 3 half steps. So the relative minor of E flat major is C minor. And if you're a bit confused or having trouble visualizing this 3 half step thing, we can go back to the slide before. So starting on E flat, which is this black note, 1, 2, 3, and we end up at C. So when we look at this, we can say this is the key signature of E flat major and C minor. Okay, I think this is the last example. Yeah. Okay, so I'll give you guys a few minutes again to work on this one. Okay, so let's go over this together. We're back to sharps now. So we're going to look at the last sharp, and we see that this is an A sharp. Hopefully you guys can, hopefully that's legible. And then we bring A sharp up a half step, and that gives us B major. And now we're going to lower B by 3 half steps. So B to A sharp to A, and then A to G sharp. And then that's 3 half steps. So that means G sharp is 3 half steps below B, and that means that the relative minor of B major is G sharp minor. And again, that means if you're seeing this in your music is probably either in B major or G sharp minor. So take a few seconds to write this down if you need to. Okay, let's go on. So now we're going to go the other way around. Instead of looking at a picture of a key signature and then writing it down, we're going to start with, wait, let me see what the next slide is first. Okay, so we're going to start with the name of the scale, and then we're going to write the key signature. We're going to draw it out, staff and everything. So have your paper ready. D minor. We're starting from the minor key this time, which means we actually have to go 3 half steps up to get back to this major key. And then once we get to the major key, we can use our prior knowledge and find the key signature. So let's start on D for D minor, and then we're going to move up 3 half steps. So I'll visually draw it out this time. The first half step up would be E flat. The second half step up, which is a 2, would be E, just E natural. And then third would be F, because E to F is a half step. So F is 3 half steps up from D. And so we know that D minor and F major share the same key signature. And so this is a lot easier for us now because we probably know the key signature of F major. It is 1 flat. So if the key signature of F major is 1 flat, that means the key signature of D minor is also 1 flat. Yay. And I know this isn't on the music, on the slides, I think, but if we were to draw this on the treble clef, say we have this, and we have 5 lines that I'm not going to draw well at all, we would put the B flat here. And this would be the key signature of D minor. Okay, I think we have 3 of these. Oh, we have 4 of these. Okay, cool. So I'll give you guys another few minutes to work on this. And in case you want to go ahead, we're starting with C minor for problem number 2, and then G minor for problem number 3. So you can do both of them at once, and then we'll go over the answers together. Okay, so let's go over the C minor scale. We're going to first find out what the relative major is, and we do that by going up 3 half steps. So let's go up 3 half steps. We start from C, we go up to C sharp, we go up to D, and then we go up to D sharp. But D sharp isn't really an actual scale. Like when we reviewed the different types of major scales last week, or in the last lesson on YouTube, D sharp isn't part of that scale, so we're going to use E flat. And this works out for us because the real key signature of C minor has flats in it, not sharps. Using D sharp would overcomplicate things. Okay, so E flat is 3 half steps up from C, and then we're just gonna find the key signature of E flat major. And to do this, let's write out our order of flats: B, E, A, D, G, C, F. And then remember, at the key of a flat key signature is just the second last flat. So if E flat is the second last flat, that means the last flat is A. So that means the key signature of C minor is 3 flats: B flat, E flat, and A flat. And like the last example, you can also try drawing this. We're going to pretend those lines are straight. Okay, and then you do B flat, E flat, and A flat. This is A, and then that's B. Okay, and the last one is G minor. Oh wait, second last one. So what note is 3 half steps up from G? Let's count. So we go to A flat, to A, and then to B flat. So the note that's 3 half steps up from G is B flat. That means the relative major of G minor is B flat major. They have the same key signature. So to find the key signature of B flat, we're going to use the exact same logic we just did for the last slide. And if we write out our order of flats, we can actually stop right here. You don't even have to write the rest of it. But say I wrote the whole order. Remember, because we're in B flat major, B flat, as in the note B flat, has to be the second last flat. And so we know that the number of flats must stop at E. That way B is the second last. So the key signature of G minor is 2 flats, B flat, and E flat. And I'm not going to draw the picture this time because it's very similar to the last one. But you're always welcome to do so by yourself. Okay, so the last one we're going to do is E minor, and I'll give you guys another few minutes to work on this. And okay, so let's go over this. So we're going to first find the note that's 3 half steps up from E. So we're going to count F, F sharp, G. So G is the note that is 3 half steps up from E. And that means they share the same key signature. Okay, and then what is the key signature of G major? We know that it's not flats because the only key that has flats in it whose name doesn't have like E flat, B flat, whatever is F. And G is not a part of those, so we know G has to have some sort of sharp in it. And if that's unclear, it'll come like you'll get better at memorizing which key signatures belong to which scales have sharps, which scales have flats. That will all come with time. So we know that G has sharps, and let's write out the order of sharps. I don't remember the acronym that we went over in lesson 2, but I know the one that I always go with since I started music theory a long time ago is fat cats go down alleys eating bagels. I think it's hilarious and I remember it like 10 years later, so it's very effective. So remember the order of the rule for finding the like the number of sharps in a major key is that the last sharp has to be a half step below what the actual key is. So these are all sharp, like F sharp, C sharp, and I'm not going to write the rest of them just to save time. But if we look through all of these sharps, we can wonder, which one of these is a half step below G? And we find that it's the very first sharp, which is F sharp. So that means that G major only has one sharp, which is F sharp. And so relatedly, E minor is the same. And now let's draw this. Hopefully whoever is watching, you guys also drew this, but if not, that's totally fine. So it's pretty simple. Since we only have one sharp, we will just place the F sharp at the very top where it belongs. Okay, so now we're gonna go over the types of minor scales. So it's very important to fully understand these 3 types of minor scales, as they will certainly be tested on the music theory test. If you are doing MCYO or PVYO, their auditions require that you play scales that are usually melodic. But the point is, it's good to know all these different types of scales to prepare you for whatever musical need your future might bring. So these scales have some things in common, but they also differ in many ways. And we're going to start with the natural minor. So a natural minor scale is the one we're most familiar with at this point because it's just taking the key signature of the relative major. I don't think this is worded correctly. We're not moving the key signature down 3 steps. We're moving like the name down 3 steps. So we can ignore that for now. And the natural minor will follow the exact same key signature as its relative major. And another way to remember this pattern is that it's a major scale with a lowered third, a lowered sixth, and a lower seventh. But I think at this point, the easiest way to remember is just to go through that process. Hold on. Go through the process we did a few slides ago with this and finding the relative minor. Let's try writing the natural minor scale for D minor. It was just shown on the last slide, so hopefully You guys can try it on your own, and if not, you can just scroll back and check yourself. Okay, so we know there's one flat, and we can go through the process we went through before to find that, and then we'll just write all the notes for one octave of the scale. So starting on D and ending on D again. Okay, so the next type of minor is called harmonic minor. The harmonic minor is almost the exact same as the natural minor, except the seventh note is raised by a half step. And many pianists may be familiar with this scale. When I started piano, this was the first type of minor scale I've ever learned. So we're going to use D minor as an example again. So as you can see, it's basically identical to what we did before, with the one flat, but the seventh note, which is C in this case, is raised by one half step to become C sharp. Now, I don't really know the history of scales and why someone decided to create different types of minors, so you can search that up on your own time. Okay, so let's write the E harmonic minor scale, and okay, you can remember to write the key signature on this left side. So this is going to be wrong, but for example, if the key signature is like this, you would write that, and then you would write the scale, blah 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 blah, and whenever there's a sharp, you would write it like next to the note, like that. So, and you can follow these steps that we've written down below if you need any help. Okay, so let's go over this. So we're gonna follow the steps that we wrote down below. First of all, what is the relative major of E minor? If we count up 3 half steps, we find that it's G. And then we know that it's 1 sharp because the key signature of G major is 1 sharp. And then we're gonna start on E, since this is E minor. And then once we get to that 7th note, which is this one, we're going to raise it by a half step. So this is E harmonic minor. Yay. Okay, so the last type of minor is probably the most complicated. It's called melodic minor, and a lot of violinists and string players are familiar with this scale because this is the scale that MCYO requires that you play when you audition for them. And I'm sure many other youth orchestras also do this. So the melodic minor is the same as a natural minor with a raised 6th and 7th while ascending, so while it's going up, but then it goes back to just a natural minor while descending. So let's look at B minor. The key signature of B minor is 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. And on the way up, we raise the 6th and the 7th. And then on the way down, we lower them back down. So you see like the natural signs. And here's another example, since it might be kind of hard to wrap around your head at first. This is the A minor melodic scale. Luckily for us, A minor has no sharps or flats in its key signature. And so we only have to look at these accidentals. So on the 6th and 7th note, they raised it by a half step to F sharp and G sharp, and then on the way back down, we lower them back to their original state. Okay, so let's do the G minor melodic scale with a key signature. I'll give you guys a few minutes to try this on your own, and then we'll go over it together. Okay, so let's first find the relative major of G minor. By now, we can follow the steps that we've gone through many times before, and we'll find that it's B flat major. So B flat major has two flats, B flat and E flat. Remember, you can go through that process of like listing out the order of flats and then, finding the second last flat. Okay, now we're going to write the scale. Oh, whoops. We're going to make sure to start from G because this is the minor scale. So this is G, A, B. I might run out of room because writing on the computer is kind of hard. So normally this note would be an E flat, right? Because that's what's written in the key signature. But because this is the sixth note of our scale, we have to raise it by a half step. So it would become E natural. And then the seventh note is supposed to be F natural, but we have to raise the seventh too. Remember this rule? So this would become an F sharp. So we've finished our ascension. Now we're gonna start descending. And remember, on the way down, we just use the natural minor, which means you kind of reverse all of the accidentals you put here. So we're gonna go back to F natural and then E flat. And the rest is the same as before. So D, C, E flat. And we don't need to write the flats because it's already in the key signature. A and G. Okay, so we've gone over, we reviewed finding the key signatures of major scales. We've gone over finding key signatures of minor scales and also the different types of minor scales, which are natural, harmonic, and melodic. So that might be a lot of information. I know that all the information in this lesson is kind of like ground knowledge for becoming a more knowledgeable musician in terms of music theory. So it might be a little bit hard to digest all this information at once, which is why our comments and emails are always open for any kind of questions or even suggestions to these recorded lessons. So if you do have any questions, feel free to email Young Artist Music Society. I'll type the email here. Or you can also just comment. And if it's easier for you, you can also DM our Instagram page. Okay, yeah. So we have many channels of communication that are all open to questions, comments, suggestions, and more. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification to see when we post new videos. Remember that these intermediate lesson uploads are every Friday or Saturday. They'll be up and available for you to review. And yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's lesson, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.